There's a saying that if you don't use your voice, you can't find it, and this represents my journey so well. At university, I spent a lot of time consuming content online and social media, just scrolling YouTube and things like that, and I wanted to make my own stuff, but I didn't have the confidence in my own voice or what I would talk about or how I would do it, or whether anyone would care, and it was a bit of a problem for me. And eventually, I'm now here in front of a camera, microphone, a light box, and I feel confident about it, and I believe in the things that I'm talking about, and I don't worry about how many people are listening or what people think. And it's a really difficult transition to make. So I'm just going to talk about my journey a little bit in this video, and hopefully you can get some tips and hopefully build up the confidence to start yourself. So grab a cup of tea and join me for Tea with Tintin, or as I like to call it, Tintin. That's so cold. So there's a few reasons why I think you should create stuff and eventually share it online. We'll go through a couple of them. The first is quite well articulated by Austin Kleon.
What is interesting about having a blog or some sort of daily project, even if it's like I post one thing to Instagram every day, or just something little like that, having something that you have to do every day, you find out it's not that you have something to say, it's that you find out what you have to say.
So his main idea is that he doesn't write because he has stuff to say, he writes so that he finds out what he's got to say. And this, when I heard this, I was just like, wow, that is actually so interesting. I always thought you had something to say, you had to have something to say, but actually you can use the process of writing or making videos or painting, whatever it is, to explore what you have to say and what you think. Going through the process of making these videos and writing an email newsletter every Sunday night has forced me to articulate my own ideas and the ideas of other people, and that allows you to understand them more deeply. There's a saying that if you I've got lots of sayings apparently. There's a saying that when one teaches, two learn, and it's not about the fact that I'm teaching stuff on here. I'm just explaining my own ideas and trying to explain the ideas of other people, and that in itself forces me to understand them better. I also think that having an online presence can be a real asset. So one reason for this is that you can earn money, especially through YouTube and other social media, and then also it acts like a personal CV. So if you're applying for a job or you're going to work with someone, you can show them your website or your social media and say like, look, this is proof of my interest in this thing, or it's proof of my hard work, it's proof of my dedication to this topic or this area, and it gives you an idea of what I'm like as a person. So the next thing is like, what should you show? And I think a really good filter for this is show your work. So that doesn't mean your job or your essays at university, it could be, but I think it's like that area of interest, that area of passion, the things that you do anyway. So for me, I read a lot about like mindset and personal development and living a good life and all that good stuff, but I also was really, really interested in football, and I am really interested in football, and I thought that was kind of like the thing that I wanted to write about or do stuff in. And so I made this like Twitter account where I was like tweeting about football matches and scores and stuff like that, but I didn't have the right system for doing it. I wasn't held accountable for tweeting and things like that, and obviously I just stopped doing it. Over time, I eventually found the thing that I wanted to write about and make videos about, and that just took a lot of experimentation. So if you've got that urge to share stuff, but you don't really know what, then try and experiment and like find different things and try different platforms. Maybe if you're really interested in finance, you could write an email newsletter about like the stock market and things like that. Or if you're a cook, you could like do a food blog or an Instagram or whatever it is. I think there's various ways to get started with showing stuff online. It doesn't matter what it is, but whatever that thing is that you want to share. So for me, I started with Twitter when I was at university, and that didn't really work out. And then I made an Instagram called Progress Not Perfection, which you can see here. It's got two ends on it at the end, because obviously Progress Not Perfection was taken. So this was like a year ago. I'm still talking about the same stuff. Progress Not Perfection, always. Another thing that I tried was in lockdown 1, so like March, April, May 2020, was this thing called morning pages, which is where you wake up in the morning and pretty much the first thing you do is write 3 pages, either handwritten or typed, about absolutely anything. So it could be your plan for the day, your thoughts on yesterday, your interests, what you're excited about, anything you're grateful for. It could be like a little story. It's just anything. It just gets you in the habit of writing and forces you to get stuff out of your brain and articulate things. So this is a morning pages that I did in lockdown 1. And look, it's just total nonsense. You can see what I've written here. I'm just talking about aiming for 1,000 words, and I'm just trying to just type literally anything that comes into my head. It's total nonsense, and I'm talking about the same things like Ali Abdaal and a weekly newsletter, which I'm thinking of doing. And this was written, this here, in April of 2020, and it took me until February 2021 to actually start an email newsletter. You can see down here I've written something about the every other day rule, which I think naturally could catch on and become a YouTube sensation. I'm obviously thinking about like creating content at this time, but I just didn't have the confidence to actually do it. So the problem with morning pages for me was actually that in lockdown I just had no motivation to do anything, and I didn't have a job, so I had no purpose, and the habit just tailed off. But if I'd kept going, I would have realized, even if it was as stupid as what I was talking about there, I did have stuff to say. The other thing is you could write an email newsletter. So I do this every Sunday, and I use Review, who just send out the email to anyone who subscribes to it. The big thing here is that you have to be willing to start small. So if we look at my email newsletter here, so this is my email newsletter, and this is where I write it, and then in here you can see issues. So these are all the things that I've written over the past 10 months, and we go back to the start. You can see here, the first one I wrote, how to appreciate the little things, I sent to 1 subscriber, and then 1 subscriber, that's obviously just me, and then I sent it to 1 subscriber, then 2 subscribers, so I told a friend about it on my 5th one, 2, 3, and then on the 8th one that I sent, Breaking Down Your Fears, I sent it to 20 subscribers because I shared it on Instagram and more people had signed up at that point. I got over the barrier of not having anything there to show when I announced it. And after I announced it, then there's something there for people to read, so they kind of get the idea. So you can see now, if I go to page 1, I've got 82 subscribers, and I've written 43 of these. And like generally you can see that people enjoy them, they get like over half open. So it's really important, this idea of being willing to start small. Everyone who's ever done anything, the thing that they're doing just started off as a thought in their head and then they put it into action. It's really, really simple. It's just about thinking and taking action on that thing and that idea. You don't have to tell anyone about it. You can make an Instagram and make it private. You could have an email newsletter and not tell anyone about it. You could start a YouTube channel and not actually make the videos public. That is one of the best ways you can get started and build the habit and build the confidence and realize, oh, okay, I actually have got some stuff to say here, or I actually do want to share these things, or I'm actually proud of these things. And then you can start to build that online portfolio and create content for people to see, and then you start to get people engaged with it. And that's really nice when people start giving you feedback, or they say this was interesting for me, or this meant something to me, or this resonated with me. And that's just a really nice process to go through. So that's definitely become a motivating factor, and it makes me more able to share stuff and more confident in the stuff that I'm sharing. It's like a snowball that requires a lot of energy to get started at the top of the hill, but then once you sort of get it going and push it, it starts to roll on its own, and you've got the habit in place, and it builds momentum, and it becomes much harder to stop. And another thing that I do that I think is quite interesting and really effective is I tell lots of people what I'm planning on doing, and I put it on my Instagram, and I talk about it in the videos, like my plan, and that holds me like publicly accountable, because it's things that I want to do, but know that I might stop or I might not do them because of my own like insecurities or my own internal battles. But if I tell people I'm going to do this thing and then I don't do it, it actually becomes a lot harder not to, because everyone knows about it and everyone's asking you about it, and that might seem a bit scary. But once you get used to it, it's actually like, oh yeah, this is really important, this is something that I want to do, and it's just a useful way of keeping you doing the thing that you want to do. So if you're thinking about sharing stuff online or writing or whatever it is, just be willing to start small. You don't have to tell anyone about it, and you can tell one person maybe just to keep you accountable and keep you going. But just try things out, get started, and eventually you'll feel comfortable sharing it, or even if you never share it, it'll be something that you've done and that you can keep yourself for the future. Thank you for watching. If you got some value from the video, please subscribe. And if you enjoy this type of content and want to hear more about why you should show your work and how I actually managed to start making YouTube videos, watch these videos here. But otherwise, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.